Hey, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight for this emergency Tariff Terror Substack Live. If you haven't checked the markets today or your 401ks, I suggest you don't,
Yeah.
unless you really want to lose some sleep tonight. But, what I really wanted to talk about today, and I'm here with JoJo from Jers, Joe Carducci, Michelle Kinney from the Seneca Project. Tara Setmayer is off on a fabulous vacation, so she can't be here tonight. This group of people is going to be here again with you tomorrow, not on Substack, but we'll be doing our coffee and conversation tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. But the reason we wanted to do this tonight is the thing that's been kind of puzzling everybody is what is Trump doing? JoJo just left because her internet was unstable. She'll be back in 1 second. But the question I think for all of us was what the hell is Trump doing and why in the world is he doing it?
Mm.
And the question is, well, I have some theories.
So do I. And I
Yeah.
don't think,
So
yeah, I don't
why
think
don't you
any of it
go?
has to do, well, I don't think any of it has to do with economic policy
I
or like,
agree.
I don't think that Trump is a simpleton in a lot of ways and kind of a dummy, but I feel like, did we just, we just lost, okay, we just lost, hi,
Yep.
Julie. Um, um, I don't think that that's why he's doing this. I think that this is just another, um, mechanism by which they can dismantle the government, dismantle democracy, create chaos. And the more that people lose, the more that people foreclose on their homes, their farms, their businesses go bankrupt. That's more money and business and homes that private equity can come sweep in and buy them up. And I mean,
Hey,
and then
Joe.
we're getting into Curtis Yarvin and Peter Thiel and Dark Enlightenment. Like we're getting into that territory. Which, listen, I don't even think you can say is a conspiracy theory because conspiracy theories are essentially things that are quiet and secret and things that apparently you know about but nobody else. This is something that they all talk about very openly. That they think democracy should end, and they're doing lots to dismantle it, and this is just one of the other means is like let's impose these insane tariffs that don't make any sense. Listen, there is a small amount of schadenfreude that I'm feeling, at least for the people on Wall Street who were like all up his ass being like Donald Trump's great and oh like Jamie Dimon and stuff. I'm like, okay, what do you have to say now?
Well, I'll tell you what they have to say now. Thanks for asking, because I don't know if you guys caught this, but JP Morgan, where Jamie Dimon obviously works and is
Yeah.
the chief executive thereof, issued a note today by their chief economist. And the note was titled, and I'm not kidding, There Will Be Blood.
Nah.
And they now are saying, thanks to these tariffs, there's going to be at least a 60% chance of a recession this year. This is the
Yeah.
same Jamie Dimon who said a few months ago, stop freaking out. Tariffs are not, like we're all overreacting about tariffs. Are we overreacting? Because there will be blood sounds a little bit like a reaction to something,
Yeah.
Jamie Dimon. So, and that's coming from his bank.
Right.
So I thought that was fascinating. I like your theory. I think you're absolutely right. I have two others, but I think you're
Mhm.
absolutely right that one of the reasons that he's doing this is because it's just that much easier to take over a country and collapse
Yep.
and to just abrogate all democratic norms and to basically say that now that we're in this horrible crisis, we need to abrogate the Constitution. And actually, this happened in New York. I don't know if people remember this, but Michael Bloomberg, who back then I hated when he did this, and I actually did not vote for him for mayor for the third time
Mm.
because of this. When the crash happened, Michael Bloomberg, who was term limited to 2 terms, basically said that he was going to not that he was not JoJo's having serious
Yeah,
internet
she's gonna
problems.
switch.
Yeah, she'll
She's
be
gonna
right back
switch
again.
lanes. Yeah.
But that he said that he needed a third term, despite the fact that
Mhm.
the New York Constitution only allowed 2 terms, because we were in this horrible financial crisis. And actually, he got it. He served for 3 terms, which I thought
And
was
so did the
completely
city council. So did
And the
all the
city,
city council, which
yeah,
then they voted at the end of their term to make that not a thing anymore, which
yeah.
is crazy. And that's why, well,
So
whatever. Whole nother thing.
there is precedence for this, by the way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Rudy Giuliani desperately wanted to run for a third term right after 9/11. He said that the city was in a crisis. He needed to run again. So
Yep.
he was not successful that time, but Bloomberg was successful. So it's not like this hasn't happened before.
Mhm.
And I think that's part of the reason. I actually have two other ideas, but Joe, I want to hear from you, your thoughts on what the hell, because obviously every economist on the planet knows that this is the stupidest mistake of all time. So what's your
Uh,
theory?
well, I mean, I don't know if you saw it, but I mean, Chris Murphy has really been killing it out there since all of this, since
Yep.
the election. And
Yep.
Chris Murphy put up a thread that was honestly very eye-opening and amazing, and sort of the best explanation that I've seen of all of this so far. And it really is that Donald Trump, it doesn't have to make any sense. This isn't designed to make any sense. This isn't policy. It's not designed to, there's no long-term strategy here. It's not to bring manufacturing back or to make us more self-sufficient. That's all bullshit, right? I mean, industry is this sort of last bastion of who he needs to capitulate, because he's gotten the law firms to do it, he's gotten the universities to do it. So now if he can get private industry to do it, then he's really got the trifecta there. And if he can get them to do the little, crawl to Mecca to beg him, the supreme leader, to make an exception for them with these tariffs, and then they'll do whatever his bidding is, whether that's firing the people who disagree with him, or anything, or praising him for his genius, or keeping him in power, letting him serve a fucking third, fourth, bazillionth term, whatever it is. That's the sort of third branch of what he needs to take over completely. And if he can get them to bend the knee, and also, by the way, Congress and in particular, the Senate, the way they keep self-gelding, he's taking their power away. So that's the kind of using taxes, using the economy, using financial burden on industry to make them bend the knee is sort of the last prong of what he needs to take the ultimate power. And that makes the most sense to me, because every economist, I mean, not just economists, you've got his own stands out there like Ben Shapiro, looking at this shit going, this doesn't make any sense. What's his name? Portnoy is like, I lost $7 million
Yeah.
today. I'm trying to make sense of this
Wah
shit.
wah.
Right.
I know.
Sorry.
I'm
No,
like, it's the world's
seriously.
Yeah.
smallest
S-
violin.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If you can afford to lose $7 million, you're not in bad shape. But there
Well,
are people
that's
today who lost their entire life savings and their
Yeah.
retirement
right.
accounts.
That's the other thing, is that Trump, he doesn't give a shit about any of those
Yep.
people, right? He certainly doesn't give a shit about Monpa MAGA, who overnight lost fucking everything. While, by the way, just as an aside, their America First patriot was
Hmm.
ignoring the dignified transfer of four of our fallen who died in Lithuania so that he could go down to his private golf club and hobnob with the fucking funders of 9/11. Oh yeah, never forget. You never forget, because you guys have all forgotten. So that he tanks the economy while going down there and spitting on the graves of those four soldiers, and spitting on the graves of everyone who died on 9/11. So I'm just, you know what? I'm so fucking mad. I'm so fucking mad. And all I want to do is say I told you so. But guess what? There are little kids with cancer, and little kids who aren't going to get fucking school lunches, and there's sick family members who aren't going to get health care, little girls who are going to be, deprived of an education. The little boys are going to be deprived of an education. And I give a shit about that stuff. So I can't say I fucking told you so, because those kids didn't get a say. Sorry. I'm
No,
pissed.
you're absolutely right. And by the way, those four soldiers who died in Lithuania, a NATO country, under quite suspicious circumstances, we could do a whole separate show on that separately. Um, I agree with Chris Murphy. That was one of my theories as well. I did not realize that he had said it, but he's
He
absolutely
shared
right.
it.
Yeah, but he's absolutely right. I think there's one more thing to this that I don't know that people have really focused on. So, as we all remember, Donald Trump has this little crypto side hustle going, where
Hmm.
he is making a ton of money, as is Melania. And then again, I don't know why our legacy media has kind of not really focused on this, but Eric and Donald Trump Jr., and this is per Eric, who let the cat out of the bag because, not the brightest bulb in the chandelier, said it out loud. Well, now that we can't do business anymore with the Trump organization because the mean prosecutors put us out of business, we now have no choice but to do crypto. And they're deep, deep, deep in crypto. Now, how does crypto function? Crypto functions when the dollar collapses. It is really important for the dollar to collapse because then people will put their money in crypto, which is unregulated, completely unregulated. What's
So
happening
true.
right now? The dollar is collapsing.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't know why it takes us and not, oh, I don't know, the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times or the Financial Times, where people actually know how to follow the money and have the resources to do that, to point this out. The worse the dollar does, the better crypto does. The better crypto does, the better the Trump family does. That's all there is to it. And he's got a crypto fund that he's set up.
Yeah.
And nobody's talking about that. But that means that, oh, I don't know, that little Saudi golf tournament that's happening down in Florida at one of his golf courses today that Joe alluded to, or this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how much money the Saudis have put into this crypto fund. And we'll never know because it's all secret and he doesn't release his information. And everybody's like, oh, well, that's Donald Trump being Donald Trump. But again, if you're Nike or you're, I don't know, name it, Apple, if you're Apple and these tariffs continue, the average iPhone will be costing over $2,000. Apple is done if that's the case. Nobody's going to be able to afford to buy an iPhone. So what's Apple going to have to do? Apple's going to have to go to Donald Trump and ask for a waiver.
Right.
And
Carve out an
what's
exception
the
for us.
VIG? Guys, it's like the mob. What's the VIG that he's going to demand in
yeah.
exchange?
Mhm.
Is it a little crypto, which is
Yeah.
going to go up and up and up and up, and all of that crypto is going to be worth more money because the dollar is going to be tanking? Like all of this is for his financial benefit, for the financial benefit of his Uday and Kusei, his two sons, for Melania's financial benefit, whose life story, which is worth about 5 cents, suddenly is worth $40 million that
$40
Amazon, that
million.
Jeff Bezos is paying for it?
$40 million.
$40
It's
million.
incredible.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all this is. And Ma and Pa MAGA, as Joe says, those idiots, who I feel sorry for because I agree with you, Joe, they don't know what they do, is going to be broke. And by the way, today, as we're about to come on air, another story just broke. They're cutting Social Security even more. They're cutting resources from Social Security even more. So when you don't get your check, you'll have nobody to call to complain. Translation, you won't be getting it. And you won't be calling anybody to complain about it because nobody's answering that phone.
No, you're going to be on hold for 2 months. You're
Yeah.
not. Yeah, yeah. But don't worry because, as Lutnick said, the billionaire, his mother wouldn't complain if she didn't get her Social Security check for a month because and it's not like everybody has that luxury of just waiting for a month when that is literally what they live on. I mean, these are the days that we live in. And by the way, I talked to Michael Cohen and I just want to go off on that fucker Lutnick for a second.
He's
He
the worst.
lost family. He lost
Yep.
family
9/11.
on 9/11. I didn't
His
know that
brother.
until today. I
His
didn't know
brother.
that until today.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he worked at Cantor Fitzgerald, obviously,
ran
but
Cantor
he had
Fitzgerald.
taken
Yeah.
he took his kid to his first day of kindergarten that day, and that's why he was not in the office. I have a friend who worked at Cantor Fitzgerald and went in late to work that day, and for that reason is alive. And so the amount of philanthropy that Cantor Fitzgerald does now from the direction of Howard Lutnick, and we have to do good now. I was like, that man learned zero. He learned nothing.
Yep.
And to be hobnobbing with the people that fucking funded that attack down there at our expense. Like I was once behind a car. I was telling this to a friend of mine who is also, by the way, Julie flagged this whole Bitcoin fucking whatever all that is, and that he's going to destabilize the dollar. But I was behind a car in the South that had a never forget bumper sticker next to a Trump 2024 bumper sticker, and I was like,
Jesus.
"Are you fucking kidding me?" All I wanted to do was like take their windshield wiper, smack them across the face with it. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Do you understand? You can't hold those two thoughts together at the same time without looking like a
But
freaking crazy person asshole. But this is where we are now. This is
I
where we
know.
are now. I'm like, it's absolutely maddening. And you can't reach some of these people. You just can't. I mean, the cognitive dissonance is so set in that like you can't reach them. But thank God, it really does feel like we're not all losing our minds. It feels like the tide is turning on in the other direction where people are finally going, oh shit. You've got friggin' Ann Coulter and Joe Rogan out there like, you know what? I don't think I was cool with disappearing people. I wasn't really on board with that. Like, are we just gonna do that? The whole no due process thing? like maybe, just maybe, they are so awful that the pendulum swing backwards will actually make a difference and stop them in some way, shape, or form. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the only thing that gives me hope.
It has to be. But then there's a story, I think it was the New York Times, I forgot where, that I was looking at right before we came on tonight. And it's like Republicans in the Senate and the House, they know this sucks, but I mean, John Thune came out and said, we really can't criticize because we have to stick together. It's good for us politically. There can't be any daylight. Politically, like, who do you answer to? Your
Right.
constituents are going broke. Social
Mm.
Security is about to be inaccessible. Medicare is about to be inaccessible. They're going to cut Medicaid, which means that the nursing homes that you rely on, the rural hospitals that your constituents rely on, John Thune, in your home state, my God, the most rural state of all, that's
Mhm.
going to shut down. And now there's going to be stagflation. And by the way, we haven't had stagflation since the 70s. And that means
70s.
inflation and a recession.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're
Congrats.
all celebrating that the jobs numbers came in better today than they anticipated. First of all, that shit's going to get revised down. It does every
Oh
time.
yeah. I was
Mhm.
But
like,
second,
that's
this
yeah.
this is the first, this is the last, the very last jobs report before Doge went in with the cuts. So don't be celebrating too much, my friends, because this is from last time.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
when this comes in this month, it's going to be a bloodbath. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, you're going to have the unemployment rate ticked up a little bit today. It's going to tick up a lot,
Yeah.
a
Oh,
lot. And I
and
guarantee you those numbers will be revised down.
and a lot of these, the manufacturing they're supposed to be bringing back that they've built no infrastructure in which to do so, they're leaving the country altogether. Those jobs are leaving the country. They're not just firing people, those jobs are leaving the country.
Yeah.
Like, why all these people thought they were going to get the golden ticket to Club Broligarch, I will never fucking understand. They're going to come for your farm. They're going to come for your little
All of
house. They're
it.
going to come for that shitty fucking house that you live in, that you hate, that your utterly unremarkable life makes you need something to feel better than everybody else, so you look down on brown people. They're going to come for that too, so you're going
Yeah.
to be left holding the bag with fucking nothing, and a kid who can't go to school, and a wife who can't get health care, and a job that doesn't keep you safe. Congratulations, great job. Ugh.
Yeah. And they're just in complete denial about who this is going to hurt. It's going to hurt
Mm.
their, I mean, listen, Wisconsin sent a message, Florida 1 sent a message, Florida 6 sent a message. Yes, I know they're ruby red districts, but give it time, because in the
Yeah.
first honeymoon phase of the Trump administration, already half the people who voted for Trump decided to not vote or voted Democrat this time around. They
Mhm.
lost a seat in Pennsylvania they should never have lost. Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, which is in that state Senate district, went Democrat for the first time since 1899. Congratulations, Donald Trump, right? In over a
Mhm.
century,
Well,
well
and
over a century.
didn't Florida just change their child labor laws as well,
Oh
because
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
to make up for the jobs that the immigrants can't do anymore because the immigrants aren't here, or they're not showing up to work because they're scared of ICE. So they lowered the age of when
Mhm.
children can begin to
yeah.
work, and the amount of hours
Yep.
that children are allowed to work legally, to try to fill the gap, which again is just another, it's poor people, it's taking advantage, it's making people poor and then taking advantage of them once again, which is brings me back to this dark enlightenment and this neo-reactionary eh, tech bro thing from Curtis Yarvin and Peter Thiel being the godfather of this entire movement, and his in-house philosopher being Curtis Yarvin. And again, like, this shit sounds so crazy and conspiratorial, it sounds science fiction, but it's
Mm.
not. Like, there is a group of men, white men specifically, who think that they are like their particular race of them, of their breed of brain. They're so smart and they're so special that they have to breed to kind of populate the earth, and they need to get rid of everybody else who isn't like them, who isn't as smart as them, who isn't as white as them. And they have a playbook. And Peter Thiel and those people worked with the Heritage Foundation to do Project 2025. There's a lot of overlap there in
Oh yeah.
philosophy
Yeah.
and how they're going to dismantle the government, how they're going to dismantle all the things in government, because to them, we should not have a democracy anymore because democracy is dead to them, and we should have a monarchy or a these was it network states where there's a CEO in charge. and and then it's like feudalism, and then we're just like little slaves who live there. And that literally says in the writing from Curtis Yarvin that they would take non functioning people or people who are unproductive in society and exterminate them and turn them into biofuel.
I mean,
That is
that's
literally a thing.
eugenics.
Yeah,
That
that
is
makes
Correct.
sense.
eugenics. People
Yeah.
understand. This is what the
Right.
Nazis did. This is
Hmm.
called eugenics.
They
And by
got
the
it. They got the
way,
idea from us in large measure. Thank you very much as well.
Right. I
Like,
yeah,
don't
mean,
forget that.
yeah. I mean, Peter Thiel, as Michelle, you pointed out, Peter Thiel, not Peter Thiel. Yeah, Peter Thiel, I guess, right? Lived in some like Nazi
yes.
affiliated
So
compound city in Southwest South
correct.
Africa.
Peter Thiel was born in Frankfurt, Germany, and then his family moved to Ohio for like a second, and then his family moved them to Southwest Africa, um, which is now, am I saying it right? Namibia?
Namibia, yeah,
Yeah,
Namibia.
that's what it is now. But at the time, it's this long name that starts with an S. It is one of the last places on Earth that it was still acceptable to throw up a Hitler salute and say, "Oh, Heil Hitler." There is an article in the New York Times from
Mm.
1976 that is written about this town in Southwest Africa. This is the same exact time that Peter Thiel was living and going to a private all-white school in Southwest Africa.
Mm.
These people are the grandchildren of the Nazi movement, of all, like, I mean, it's crazy because Elon Musk also
Yeah.
originates. His grandparents were Canadian Nazis who moved to South Africa with no ties to the place because of its racism and oppression of people who were not white. And the fact that the grandchildren of this movement has risen from the ashes with their billions of dollars and come to the United States of America, which has helped them make their fortune. And
Hmm.
now they are weaponizing that fortune against us.
Yep.
And they are in the ear of Donald Trump because Donald Trump is, for lack of a better term, he is a useful idiot for these
Yep.
people. They
Hmm.
don't like him. They're not like, "Oh, Donald Trump." They see him as a tool to get
Hmm.
what it is that they want. Same as the evangelicals and the theocracy nut jobs.
And
They see
Putin.
it, right.
Yeah.
He's a means to an end. And so, they use flattery and all the things that all the other people are using with him. Oh, Donald Trump, if you do this, if you, impose these tariffs, if you take away Social Security, like it'll be painful and, but you won't lose that much support and everyone will think you're a genius. And like, really, at the end of the day, it's about power and you're going to be the king. And isn't this going to be great? If you think that these conversations aren't happening, I don't know what to tell you. Like this is happening. This
Yeah.
Yeah.
is happening. And it sounds crazy, but they write about it and they talk about it openly.
Well, no,
And
and history may not exactly repeat itself, but it certainly does rhyme, and it rhymes for a
Right.
reason. Like there's a reason that so many of these things overlap. First of all, because these are the tools in the tool shed for how you do this, right? But
Right.
also because the inspiration and the origin stories are overlap and are the same. And Donald Trump,
Mhm.
according to Ivana Trump, kept a book of Hitler's speeches by his bedside table, right?
Right.
Like,
yep.
I mean, these are people who get like little Woody's, little Vienna sausages for bad guys, right? Like that. I mean, I'm not giving Donald Trump too much credit there. I might
Oh,
be, but still, sorry, sorry. This is why I drink
you're the
wine.
one with the glass of wine. The rest of us have
Yeah.
not yet started
I know. I
drinking,
was
but I
like, this
think
is
Well,
but
an
I think I should
Olipop.
now. But go,
Yeah.
oh
but
well,
I'll just, I
I'm the
just want to
only
say,
idiot here who didn't bring wine for that
No, I don't have
discussion. But go
wine
ahead.
either. I'm drinking Olipop, so don't
well,
feel
I just
bad.
want to say, no, this is definitely wine. It's Meiomi Pinot Noir. But I just want to say, like, Michelle, you were talking about the child labor laws in the state of Florida, and this has been underway in states like Idaho and Missouri and Nebrahoma, and I don't know other states like that for a little while now, where it's like make America the jungle again, and part
Yeah.
of that, right? Like part of that, it kind of goes hand in hand with this attack on public education and this voucher bullshit that, by the way, is not about giving more education to more kids. That, on the contrary, it's not at all
Yeah.
that at all. But yeah, I mean, in states like those, if they reverse the child labor laws, I mean, there's that infamous picture of Sarah Huckabee Sanders with those kids in signing the
Yeah.
law, and the kids are just like flat faced and just like totally grim. It's like, what are we doing? That,
Where they were
but
finding 12-year-olds working in meat factories.
Yeah.
right,
I mean,
right,
in
so,
her state. It's
right.
crazy.
And the same party that, by the way, wants to change the voting age because those 18-year-olds aren't old enough, but they'll force a 10-year-old to have a rapist baby and force a 12-year-old to go work at a meatpacking plant. I mean, let's
Right.
talk about hypocrisy here, right? But a lot of this is already underway and has been underway in states like Texas, Missouri, or Arkansas. Like my friend Jess Piper, who I talk about all the time. She's always like, "Y'all, you do not." And I'm sorry, I'm giving her a Southern accent. I don't know that she actually has a Southern accent. She might have a little bit of one, but she does say y'all.
Isn't she from
You,
Missouri? I don't think that's
she,
South.
Nah, I know, but maybe she might have grown up somewhere Southern because she
Okay.
does have a tiny bit of a twang, and I just like doing a twang. It's like whatever. It's as good as my Piers Morgan accent, Julie. But
That's a pretty good. You have a pretty good Piers
see,
Morgan accent, but
actually,
go
my
ahead.
Piers Morgan sounds like Mick Jagger. But yeah, but Jess is like, you don't want to live here. You don't want to live like this, folks. And in this Project
Yeah.
2025 is exactly more or less what they've been doing there in Missouri and other states like that, and that is what's coming for
Mhm.
all of us. That's what they're doing in
Oh,
Florida. That's what they'll be doing anywhere they can get away with it.
And let me say
this
this for sorry, but for everybody out there who's like, we need to bring American manufacturing back.
it's
Like
gone.
our clothes, a lot of companies thinking that the tariffs were coming to China moved their productions off to Vietnam. And
Hmm.
Vietnam just got hit with a massive, massive, massive tariff today. But who's going to be stitching your shirts by hand here? Like, who's going to be trained to stitch little stitches to make all the clothes that we all import from Vietnam? Because if you look at your
Hmm.
tag, most of the time it'll say made in China, made in Vietnam, made in
Yeah.
Indonesia, places like that. Um, who's going to be like, who are we exactly training here? Like, is Donald Trump going to invest in training seamstresses?
Right.
Let me seriously, like,
I
okay, we're gonna
know.
bring
Like,
manufacturing back here. Is it gonna be the 10-year-olds who are now gonna be able to
well,
work 18
right. I
hours a
think
day with
about
their
the
little fingers who are
shirtwaist.
gonna be stitching? Like, who's it
Yeah,
gonna
and
Right. I
there's
be?
no
think
there's
about
not
the
going to be any OSHA, so there's not going to be any workplace protections
Yeah.
for these children or
right.
anybody else.
Which brings me to like, it makes me think of the shirtwaist factory fire in New York City, the triangle or something, right? Where all
The
those
triangle. Yeah.
women, the women were essentially chained to their tables, and there was no way out, and there was no door out, and there was a fire where they were working, and they all died. All of these women died because they couldn't get out again because there was no OSHA, there were no protections, no anything, and they like MACA sells this idea, make America great again, and it means two different things. For the billionaires and the ruling class, it means setting up income and economic inequality that is of 1890s or even 1880s, like the Gilded Age. That is
Mhm.
for them, that is make America great again. But it also encompasses this 1950s picket fence idea, like idealism of life in America. But the thing is, you can't have 1950s America and the inequality of the 1880s and 1890s in America, because one of the greatest things that this country has ever produced is the middle class. And
Mm.
with the middle class came all of that greatness and all of that access for at least white people during that time, um, to have a home, to have a job, to have a car, and to build wealth. And because of that middle class and because there was more opportunity, there were more government protections, people were able to build lives that were happy and fulfilling. And it wasn't until the 80s, obviously, that that began to go the other way. Some of my former Republican cohorts, we get into disagreements about this because, there is still like this idea of Reagan being this great thing. And I'm like, no, he
No.
was the beginning of this, of the downfall in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
But do
Yeah.
people understand like why we have an income tax in this country and why it was instilled? It was instilled because tariffs were the way the government would raise money,
Hmm.
and they decided that was really screwing everybody and it was too painful, so they decided to institute a graduated income tax. That's why.
What year was that?
I
I'm
think
trying to
like 19 I
remember.
wanna say like 1913, sometime around
13.
then.
That's what I was thinking
Yeah.
in my head too. Yeah,
Um,
it was like in December. They
in
passed it.
reaction to the Gilded Age. And by the way, the Gilded Age is not called the Golden Age. It's called the Gilded Age for a reason because
Right.
it was gilded to look golden, but underneath it was rotting. I mean, that's the whole joke. It's a
That's right.
pejorative term.
That's as Trumpian as anything I've ever
That's as
heard.
Trumpian as
Everything in
anybody's
Trump's life is
ever seen. And
gilded.
let me tell you something. I put complete aside. And Joe, I know you need to go. We probably should wrap this up soon. But I'll tell you something. When I was looking for an apartment in New York, many years ago, somebody took me to one of the Trump buildings, and they were like, "Why don't you look here?" And I said, "There's no way I'm buying an apartment with Donald Trump's name on it. This is way before even The Apprentice. This is like 20 something years ago." And they're like, no, go take a look. We'll just go take a look. So my realtor was annoying. I said, fine, I'll go take a look. It is exactly what you would assume is the shittiest made. And by the way, he just slapped his name on it. It wasn't even like he had anything
Yeah.
to do with building it. It was the shittiest made crap. Like if I touched the wall, I would have put probably a hole through it. Like I'm not a
Totally.
big person.
Mhm.
And that's what he is. This is a guy, we joke about this, who bankrupted 2 casinos. You can't bankrupt a casino. So why do you think he's not going to do that to this country? That's what he's doing. And that is exactly what he's doing, but he's doing it to make himself rich. Keep your eye on the crypto stuff. Keep your eye on exactly what Joe talked about with Chris Murphy, with Senator Murphy,
Yep.
about the reason for doing this. Keep your eye on what Michelle talked about, which is that this is the fastest way to get to eradicate the democracies that we have, democracy that we have. That's all it is, folks. It is.
Yeah. Yeah. And just one last thing, if I can, the hypocrisy of it that, Republicans have gotten to a place where they call themselves, the party of freedom, but they'll let, elected officials decide who they can love or marry, what medications they can take, what states they can travel to, how they spend their money, where their kids, or if their kids can go to school, where they can work, if they're safe, what they do with their taxes. Like, this is not a party of freedom. That's the gaslight,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
This is the absolute opposite. They are being lit into believing that Republicans give a shit about them, and they don't. All they want is power and control for the sake of having power and control, and that is the bottom line. That's it.
Yep.
I just want to say one thing to piggyback on that really quick is Peter Thiel often says that freedom and democracy cannot coexist. And he says this, and it's puzzling. Um, but when you think about what he means freedom for him and people like him, where there's no guardrails and there's no red tape and there's no government telling him what he can and cannot do. That's freedom to him. He doesn't mean your
Mhm.
freedom, my freedom, any of our freedom. Even the crypto bros who follow him and worship to him, he doesn't mean them either. He only means himself and
Yep.
people like him. And that is why they want to dismantle all of this.
Yeah.
So, you guys, thank you all so much for joining us for this very quick emergency tariff disaster Substack Live. For those of you who are around tomorrow morning, come join us on over at Coffee and Conversation. I might bring a Bloody Mary now that I see everybody else
I
is
know.
drinking.
I'm like saying.
I know. Don't check your portfolios if you have one. Don't check your 401ks unless you want to be depressed. We'll talk more about this tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. See you all then. Thanks, everybody. Have a great
Thanks,
night. Bye.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.